discovery began shortly after 2 when Lake Hefner Rangers found an abandoned 1980 model Cadillac. 2 hours later, the Rangers found the body of a white male in his mid-30s laying in a ravine nearby. The victim's throat had been slashed. Police have no suspects or motive in the killing, but are tracing the car for a positive identification.
We are now tracing the vehicle. We believe we can identify who it is through the vehicle, which has led us to a business. The car apparently is a business vehicle.
Action 4 has learned that the car was licensed to an Oklahoma City oil company. We are withholding the victim's name pending notification of relatives. Debbie Mash, Action 4, near Lake Hefner.
This room looks a lot different from past weeks, the biggest difference being there's less people. Last Friday was a record day for the department. Today, half as many waited in line. For the nurses and volunteers, that meant more time could be spent with each child, which hopefully would mean some happier faces. But the scary old shots were still scary, no matter how much pampering was done. Today's decline, along with only 2 reported cases of measles last week, may mean the outbreak is on its way out, but it'll be almost 2 weeks before officials can be sure.
Records show that immunizations communicability time is around every 10 days to 15 days. So about every 10 days we see a peak of new cases.
Health department officials are optimistic that the outbreak is becoming controlled. They've stopped bringing in extra help, which means they're almost back to their normal staff. Sherry Sellers, Action 4 at the Oklahoma County Health Department.
The Shriners came to town this week looking to give Oklahoma City a good time. And this morning they came through and gave an enthusiastic audience a parade they won't soon forget.
All 3 now. 1, 2, 1, go!
This was a convention of the Southwest Shriners and involved 7 area states. And Oklahoma City seemed to be a lot more than just all right with the visitors.
I know it's real hard having 7,000 Shriners come in. We've been to a lot of places to eat where we've gotten some free drinks and some discounts, and the merchants and the people have been really nice to us.
Besides parades, the Shriners are known as the world's largest philanthropist organization. They have contributed to the medical world with numerous hospitals and burn centers and have given a lot of time to crippled children. But today was dedicated to the population of Oklahoma City. A fond farewell from the Central States Shrine Association. Kevin Ogle, Action 4.
Well, he bought me a little fiddle, and I just started looking off his fingers. And I'd watch his fingers, and I'd try to copy them, and I just started playing tunes off copying his fingers.
The day after Christmas, I was sitting in there playing my fiddle, and she says, "Grandpa, could I try that?" I started when I was a kid about 11 or 12, about her age.
Fun to have lots of people watching me just perform on the fiddle and the guitar and sing. I've been performing in the Oklahoma Opry, and I sit back with the band sometimes and play.
Well, I'm just tickled to death that I could help her as much as I have. I hope she goes on to high heaven with this.
The old Youngblood Hotel was a northeast Oklahoma City showcase in its prime. In the early morning hours, it was a spectacle all over again. The rambling three-story wood building was engulfed in flames when fire units arrived. A fire spokesman says neighbors report hearing several small explosion sounds. The men fighting the blaze say it behaved as though it had been set. Second and third alarms were quickly called in.
This structure was in the process of being demolished. There were large open areas, lots of fuel for the fire, lots of oxygen for the fire. We would guess on just preliminary reaction to the fire that it was probably doused in several areas. It appeared to have been started in several areas at the same time. So we just had a tremendous amount of fire, a very rapid fire, very hot fire.
The collapsing wood structure and the raging fire were dangerous not only to the firefighters, but to the people living nearby as well. Neighbors were evacuated from their homes because of the intense heat and fear of spreading flames. It took crews more than an hour to cool the fire down enough to fight it. Water pressure was a problem at first, but even that wouldn't have saved the building from total loss. The Youngblood has been vacant for several years, and because it was being demolished, damage estimates are low. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4, Northeast Oklahoma City. Timothy Earl Rist was originally arrested in early April for the death of Tammy Carter. He was released 2 days later because of insufficient evidence. But new technical evidence reaffirmed prosecutors' belief that Rist was involved in the March homicide, and he was in Cleveland County District Court today for arraignment on first-degree murder charges. Rist was quiet during his arraignment, and he answered quietly when the judge asked if he understood the charges, which include 3 other felony counts. The state requested that Rist be held without bond. And Special District Judge Gary Purcell granted their request.
In view of the seriousness of the offense and the fact that the charge does carry a possible death penalty, we would ask that no bond be posted in this case.
Timothy Rist's arraignment comes less than a week after Michael Harmon was convicted and sentenced to life for the slaying, and before charges have been filed against a third suspect. The judge said he would consider Rist's claim of being indigent and his request for a court-appointed attorney. Rist has been ordered back to court on the 15th to set a date for a preliminary hearing. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4, at the Cleveland County Courthouse.
Right base for runway 21.
77 Hotel Tango, cleared to land. I have a Cessna taking runway 4 departure at this time.
Hotel Tango, understand.
When approaching Max Westheimer Airfield in Norman in an airplane, you're greeted over the radio with something new. It's the voice of an air traffic controller. Until July of this year, there was no controller simply because there was no tower. But all that has changed when airport officials got together and decided to put out enough money to buy one. The new system should be a great asset on Football Saturday, the day that used to cause headaches at the airport, and pilots that have used the airport's new tower says it's smooth sailing.
On game days, it's usually pretty busy, but they seem to handle it real well. They have the tower in operation, and the people on the ground handle the parking very well. So it's just like going into Will Rogers or Tulsa International.
According to projections, over 300 small aircraft will make their way to Norman this Saturday. Most of those will be squeezed into this field for safekeeping until the game is over. Even with the prospect of heavier traffic, airport officials say they are prepared.
people will be patient and at the same time watch that they're not stepping on somebody else's transmissions, it'll probably go pretty smooth.
So, with the assistance of a new control tower, game day Saturday should be a lot easier for air travelers to cope with. Kevin Ogle, Action 4 in Norman.
Development to review what was done before and to look at what we need to do now. International economic policy is directed toward them, and they are very important tools that could and I began following the exports. Right now we have you drive by most of the yards that stockpile pump jacks and drilling equipment, and it's not hard to see that we have a lot of it stacked that isn't of use right now. And other parts of the world are desperate for the kind of technology that we can provide. And in the agricultural area, there are many pieces of processing equipment and agricultural equipment that are in great demand. But because our manufacturers are small, they do not have ready access to these foreign environments.
Voters flocked to registration booths all over the state today. You could expect to wait at least 15 minutes to sign up here at Shepherd Mall. Voter registration is up 40% for the September 21st election. The pari-mutuel issue was on most people's minds.
And we want to vote on the pari-mutuel.
Some people that haven't voted in a long time are voting for it.
Most of my friends are for it. We had a lot of arguments, but I'm holding to my decision, so I just don't think we need it.
The debate on the pari-mutuel betting question is heating up in the home stretch. Today, the Oklahoma Horsemen's Association filed a campaign expenditures report. The horsemen say they've spent more than $420,000 wooing voters to approve pari-mutuel betting.
We already are having rallies in the various counties, making sure that people are planning on turning out to vote, making sure they're registered to vote. We'll be working on telephones the last 3 or 4 days in all of the major counties, and we'll be conducting some mail operations. We'll be going door to door, as a matter of fact.
The anti-pari-mutuel forces are conducting a more low-key campaign, mainly on church pulpits. Anti-Crime Association officials say they are spending only $150,000.
We don't have the money. They can pour the money because they're going to make it back. All we get out of it is that we have a better Oklahoma, a safer Oklahoma, free from the corruption of organized gambling.
The Horsemen's Association claims a recent poll indicates 56% of Oklahomans questioned are in favor of pari-mutuel betting. But Anti-Crime Association members say voters haven't changed that much since the last time the pari-mutuel question reached the ballot. It was defeated back in 1974. It should be a race to the wire in 1982. Mark O'Neill, Action 4.
It was wall-to-wall Big Red today at Owen Stadium in Norman. The 75,000 plus came to the season opener in full force. Traffic flowed smoothly over most of the main thoroughfares leading to Owen Stadium, but there were a few problems to contend with on Highway 35. While getting to the stadium was not much of a problem on the highways, making your way on the campus sidewalks was full of detours.
Tickets. We need some good tickets. We need some good football tickets.
It's not only the athletic event that brings people out, but also the game day atmosphere.
It's great, great. There ain't nothing better. All the people getting the spirit, everybody's in a good mood, walking around partying, having a good time. It's great.
Folks traveling to Stillwater to see the Cowboys play had no problem whatsoever navigating the freeways leading to Lewis Stadium. But at the airport, there was plenty of company. A lot of alumni flew in to see the Pokes in action.
I'm an alumni of Oklahoma State. That's our first time down here for about 15 years. So we've come down to see Oklahoma State beat North Texas State.
It's football season again, and regardless where your loyalties lie, there should be plenty of action at both ends of the state this year. Kevin Ogle, Action 4.
The Oklahoma County City Health Department is asking all its black patients to be screened for sickle cell. Normally, only about 10 people a month will come in and ask for the test. Sickle cell is an hereditary blood disease, primarily found among the black population. The disease will reduce the capacity to carry oxygen, causing a person to have low resistance against infection. The red blood cells will sometimes take the shape of a sickle, thus giving the disease its name. Officials want to point out there is a big difference between sickle cell disease and sickle cell trait.
If they have sickle cell trait, they will always have a trait that will never develop into the disease. And if they have sickle cell disease, they will never be free of it. It can be managed better than it used to be managed, but they can never, it's never curable.
Have a seat right here.
Checking for sickle cell among children should only be done after the child is at least 1 year old. The screening is quick and results should be known in just a few weeks. If the trait or disease is found, health department officials will offer counseling on how to live with sickle cell. The advice and the screening are at a price anyone can afford. It's free. Ed Stewart, Action 4, the Oklahoma City County Health Department.
These kindergartners are taking their very first test, a test unlike any other they'll take during their education. They don't use a paper and pencil, but pictures and crayons and toys. It's the Early Childhood Prevention Test, and it's a first for Oklahoma City Public Schools. The test is used to help identify areas where the child is gifted or in need.
Balcony.
We're working in 5 different areas, in the areas of language, auditory, visual, and gross and fine motor skills. And we screen the children in each one of these areas and find out if they're weak in an area or if they have a special strength in an area. And then this helps the teacher know how to instruct. And so she can group children according to their specific needs.
School administrators say another important part of this test are the teaching manuals, books that provide teachers with ideas for how to help the children in the areas of their need. Debbie Mash, Action 4 at Edwards Elementary School.
I've received promises that I will know within the next couple of days whether or not we will be paid. And of course, eventually, we've got a lawsuit going on, so eventually in the next 10 or 20 years, we'll get our pay. So I'm just hoping, keeping going.
Consideration, if it turns out that loyalties and their efforts, and certainly,
if they don't pay, they can't continue to go on a promise. They have to get paid.
And so they will have no alternative but to act in their best interest for themselves and their families and go try to get a job somewhere else.
The $1 million plane went down shortly after takeoff and burst into flames. The crash occurred near the base fire station, so it only took a couple of minutes to put out the fire. The pilot, Major Robert Finkenstadt, was able to eject from the aircraft. Finkenstadt is all right, but he'll remain under observation at the base hospital this evening. Base Commander Colonel Kenneth Waits explained what happened.
He was on takeoff. It was a test top flight. Bob's a test pilot, and it looks like he became airborne a little ways and came back down, and then he ejected shortly before it crashed, but maybe a possibility of the outer wing fold collapsed on him. Then the fire department responded within about 30 seconds to a minute to put out the fire, and then Bob was picked up by the ambulance.
You crouch to make the smallest target, you push your arm.
Just
I'm sort of feel that it was a thing that had to be done temporarily. I think it's an aberration in the curve. I think the president realizes that in politics, the shortest distance between two paths is not a straight line. Sometimes if you got a big obstacle, instead of trying to go right through it, you have to go around it. I think this time he chose to go around it. I don't think he's departed from his major course. It was a little detour, but he'll be back on course, and we'll be cutting spending and cutting taxes and reducing the budget. And those are the things that we have to do.
Every available firefighter in the town of Norman was called to the blaze, as well as units from Lawton and Oklahoma City. The men arrived to find there was nothing they could do to stop the fire until it cooled down. They waited for almost an hour, only to run into more problems.
It was awful hard to get to. A lot of smoke, and the access to the buildings was only accessible to the front and the back, and there was a lot of heat buildup, and then the roof started caving in, and it made it more difficult to fight the fire.
Despite the very dangerous working conditions, the firemen were able to bring the fire under control, but it left behind a path of destruction. All that stands of the Olympic Village Sports Shop and Two's Company clothing shop are 4 charred walls. Their neighboring stores suffered smoke and water damage. Altogether, the losses exceed $500,000. What started the fire isn't known yet, but they do know where it started, in the Olympic Village store. Investigators say they have ruled out the original idea that the blaze was sparked off by a t-shirt press machine. Norman officials now suspect faulty wiring. Sherry Sellers, Action 4 in Norman.
Where's everybody taking it to other states and everything? I just like to see it come here. Why shouldn't we have it? Got a lot of good horses here. I just like to see it come in.
One thing I object to is the hypocrisy of the parimutuel bettors. They present it as a question of horse racing, and that's really not the question. The question is legalized gambling.
I don't think that Oklahoma needs that, because we have enough problems of our own without, bringing in the parimutuel betting and all.
You could vote yes or no on parimutuel betting, and either way could support the case, but because the question allows the counties to decide, I would probably be inclined to vote yes for parimutuel betting or for State Question 553.
Declining mortgage interests have made it less painful for prospective home buyers to look for their dream house. In the past 6 months, buyers have seen interest rates tumble about 2%. FHA loans have dipped to 14.5%. VA loans are down to 14%. And government-backed bond money can be had at 13.9%. Some buyers are waiting to see if mortgage interest rates will drop any lower.
Now, a lot of buyers would ask the question, should I buy now when interest rates are fairly low, or should I wait and perhaps they'll go a little bit lower?
If they wait until interest rate bottoms out and starts back up, and it won't be much lower than what we are right now. We're very close to the bottom. But the minute that the rate does bottom, starts to escalate again, all of the backlog of purchasers that are waiting in the wings, have been waiting to buy a home, well, all at once, all rush forward to look for a home. There'll be a larger demand for homes than there are homes available. And supply and demand will mean that the price of homes will go up, and the buyer will end up paying more for his property.
Lester says that so-called creative financing has become less popular now that home buyers can lock in a 14% interest rate on a 30-year loan. Scott Wallace, Action 4.
Officially, as president of the Oklahoma Horsemen Association, I declare our victory is won. We've won this thing, y'all. Come on!
With those words, the president of the Oklahoma Horsemen's Association, Alan Coles, declared victory. That victory meant a lot to horse breeders. Paul Travis of Norman says it will mean a lot of money to the Oklahoma horse industry. Travis said not just the horsemen are winners. He said hotels, nightclubs, gas station operators, and owners of other local businesses will benefit. Appointments to the State Racing Commission are of primary importance now. Travis said the governor must appoint men whose honesty is beyond reproach. State Question 553 provides for county option, and Travis has some ideas about where tracks should be located.
Hoping that Oklahoma County, because of the people there, the tremendous number of people there that will attend the races will be there somewhere near Oklahoma City, Norman, Moore, and there's lots of good places to have a good track.
Opponents of parimutuel betting say they were too loosely organized, and their advertising wasn't as professional as parimutuel supporters. They say it will be different on the county level.
We'll be ready for them, first of all. I anticipate we'll be meeting and we'll start our campaign now. We want to get our message. We have the facts. We just failed to get them out. And we're going to hit it with everything we've got because we believe we're right.
So there's still no final determination whether parimutuel windows like these in Ruidoso, New Mexico will come to Oklahoma. In fact, the battle over parimutuel betting may be heating up even more. Bill Ross, Action 4. The controller of the currency declared Penn Square Bank insolvent on July 5th. The FDIC moved its own supplies into the bank that very night. As of September 5th, the FDIC had 39 employees at the bank. In addition, there were 189 local employees who had worked at the bank prior to July 5th. In a letter dated September 21st, the FDIC answered certain questions Congressman Mickey Edwards had raised. One area Edwards asked about was expenses. As of August 31st, receivership expenses totaled $841,000. The housing allowance for FDIC liquidators is $600 per month. During the first 2 months of operation, the FDIC charged $8,000 in supplies and equipment to the receivership. A press release from Edwards' office accompanied the letter. The release said the final liquidation is still several years away, and the final cost of receivership will be millions of dollars. For all the people with uninsured deposits who stood in line, that's bad news. Those millions will be subtracted from their accounts.
What are they going to learn differently this time than they did last time here in the Oklahoma City area?
Well, in my opinion, not a whole lot, because we've changed things very, very little. The system was operating safely when they issued their report in early December of 1981. I have seen no compromise of safety. I'm not aware of any. The system is safe. It's operating normally with higher than expected traffic levels.